one of the other ministers here, and I want to defend my colleague. I know this is really rare. But if you can't make it on Tuesday night, there actually is a WTC Kingdom Theology event on the Monday night. It's in the pretty city of Edinburgh. Okay, so if you're not able to make it on Monday, you can actually. If you're not able to make it on Tuesday, you could go on Monday night. So that's what you were thinking of, wasn't it?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Thanks, okay. You owe me one. If you've been here at all in the church, you know we've been doing a journey through Mark. And doing that journey through Mark, we've been working with kind of two subtitles that were taken unashamedly from a book by Frost and Hirsch, depending upon what edition of the book you read. And so we were working with these kind of subheadings of a wild Messiah for a missional church, or remaking the church in our founder's image. And these were kind of overall themes. We're not working our way through the book, and in fact, if you read the book, you'll see that we're not sticking closely to it at all, but I like the subheadings from the book. Our reading today, therefore, is coming from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 7, reading from verse 24. Ben, you're thinking, lucky you, mate, if you know what this passage is. So Mark chapter 7, reading from verse 24. Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered the house and did not want anyone to know it, yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was Greek, born in Syrian Phoenicia. She begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. First, said Jesus, let the children eat all they want, for it's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Lord, he replied, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. Then he told her, for such a reply you may go, the demon has left your daughter. So she went home and found her child lying on the bed, and the demon was gone. If you're traveling from the town of Kirkintilloch to the town of Lenzie and you're traveling the back roads, you come to a little railway bridge. It is quite small, and it's not very wide. And so for cars to pass, drivers need to show one another courtesy and consideration with respect to who arrived there first. Well, many years ago, I found myself in a standoff halfway under that bridge. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story so that you will know I was definitively in the right. But you should know that the standoff wasn't equal, because I was there in my little burgundy Metro. You can Google that, those of you who are younger. I was there in my little burgundy Metro, and the other car was, let's just say, much more substantial. Not only that, as it would turn out, he was a big guy, the other driver. Two consequences of that particular encounter. One was they reversed out of the bridge to let me pass. And the second thing about that encounter was when I passed, they shouted at me an expletive-filled insult. And one of the words they used in the middle of it was dog. Actually, that wasn't what they said. The phrase was much better than that. What they said in the middle was dog-faced. Dog-faced. I mean, maybe now, but not 30 years ago. Get a grip. Now, to let you know, this dog-faced was certainly not a compliment. If you had been there, you would have known it was not a compliment. You would have known that he wasn't saying to me, my, you're a sleek guy, dignified like a greyhound. He was not saying to me, you look kind of tough and butch like a Rottweiler. He was not saying to me, you're cute like a Labradoodle puppy. None of that was going on. The whole statement, which I will not repeat to you, was an insult, and it was meant to be demeaning, and it was meant to be degrading. But let me tell you something. You do not de-escalate a situation by laughing when someone insults you. He meant it, and he meant it big. In our passage, if you were following the story, you will know that a woman comes to Jesus for help, and she receives from him what is and what seems to be a very harsh answer. We're set up for what is going to happen because, just so we know, Mark tells us twice that she's non-Jewish, just in case you missed it the first time. He doesn't simply say she was Greek, but also makes a point that she was Syro-Phoenician. She was Greek from Syro-Phoenicia. Right, we've got it. And this woman, who's non-Jewish, comes to Jesus to ask him for help, and the answer that he gives to her essentially suggests that her people, that her and the daughter whom she has sought help for, is a dog. Takes us back a little bit when we hear that. It's a little bit shocking, and it's a little bit breathtaking. Now, people have got hundreds of opinions on how to interpret this passage today. You get mine. I think this is a breathtaking passage. And I think it's a breathtaking passage in part because what Jesus does here is he exposes the ugly heart of discrimination that excludes other people. The words that Jesus uses here, and in case you missed them, there they were. Let the children eat all they want, for it's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. This expression, this phrase, is a phrase that perhaps, maybe, we could have expected a nationalistic Jewish religious leader to say to a woman. That isn't what shocks us. What shocks us is that Jesus says this because we don't expect it from him. However, it seems to me that Jesus speaks these words, and this is where I'm offering my interpretation of this. It seems to me that Jesus speaks these words because he wants to express them so that he can expose them, so that he can exorcise this kind of discrimination in the same way as he's going to exorcise the demon out of this girl. So I'm going to repeat that to you. It's my understanding Jesus does not say these words because he believes them. He says them because he knows other people in the room believe them, and he is going to name it. He is going to express it so that he can expose it, so that in the end he can exorcise this idea that it's okay to treat other people as dogs. I used to think, and maybe it's the case, and people will say this, that one of the reasons Jesus got cranky with the woman was because when we read the story, we're told he went away by a house to himself, and the idea is he wanted to have some peace, but she came and disturbed him. However, when you go back and read the beginning of the story, it's likely that other people had discovered that Jesus was in the house, that she heard from them, and by the time she arrived there were already other people there. At least we suspect that the disciples would have been there. So this conversation takes place in front of other people. And I like, and it's an imaginative suggestion, I like the suggestion that when Jesus says these words to the woman, he looks around the room at everybody else with an eyebrow raised to see how many people are going, yeah, that's right. And he's looking at them going, really? You think that? Worse? You think I think that? Seems to me when Jesus speaks these words, he's speaking these words because they need to be spoken in order to be exposed, and so that indeed they can be challenged. These words here take us to the ugly heart of racial, national, ethnic, and religious discrimination. Because at the heart of discrimination is when we not merely demean and degrade, but we dehumanize other people. She comes and asks for her daughter, and the response is, while his people, the people of Israel, are children, her people are animals. These are the words he expresses to expose them. And at the heart of much discrimination is when we treat other people as less than human. And that is insidious. And that sneaks up on us. And I realized during the week where it maybe sneaks up on us. It sneaks up on us when we are merely concerned about how many people landed in boats and we are not concerned about how many people lost their life at sea. At the heart of discrimination is a dehumanization of other people that allows us to believe that they are not worth the same as us or as others. And he speaks it out, and we need to speak it out because there are people who believe that other people are not of the same value as others. And that simply, in the economy of God, is not true. Jesus here names it to express it, to expose it, so that he can exorcise this idea out the house. In the same way, he's going to exorcise the demon out the girl. This is breathtaking, this story. And it's also breathtaking because of the tenacity of the woman. In here, she appears as one of the women in the Gospel of Mark who is heroic. And someone said that this woman is on a quest. And I like that because quests are a particular type of journey. A quest is a journey where a person, motivated and sometimes compelled, goes to search for something or goes to achieve something and is willing to face the difficulties, compelled by that which they're seeking to achieve. Think Lord of the Rings. Think Raiders of the Lost Ark. Okay, when I was illustrations here about a quest, we can go everywhere from the Wizard of Oz to Homer's Odyssey. The two examples I thought fitted in here, okay? At neither of these extremes, but that is okay. So a quest is when someone goes on a journey seeking to find something, motivated by something, and this woman is on the quest. She's on the quest to find the healing for her daughter. It's interesting, isn't it? Elsewhere in the Gospel of Mark, we met a man on exactly the same quest. He was a Jewish synagogue leader who comes to Jesus and falls at his feet, begging for Jesus' help in healing her daughter. Here, we have a Greek, Syrophoenician woman who comes to Jesus, falls at his feet, and asks him to heal her daughter. You do know that other people love their children just as much as we love ours. And they care for them just as much as ours. They really do. And many years ago, I made a terrible, horrendous mistake when watching on the television distressed children. I imagined what if they were mine. And that wrecked me. And now I try not to do it. I try not to think, what if that was Stephen and Kim? But maybe that is exactly what we need to do. Maybe that is precisely what we need to do to understand the value of other people's children is exactly the same as ours. And this woman is on this quest, and this woman knows that she's going to have to face gender, and she's going to have to face racial, and she's going to have to face religious boundaries that in some ways she's going to have to try and cross. And she's on this quest for healing. And she's confronted with what seems like an almost immovable object. When Jesus speaks those words, it suggests that she is not worthy of help. Yet, somehow in what Jesus says to her, I don't know, was it the tone? Was it the look? What was it? But you see, I imagine that in the way he answers her, he says to her, come on. Show them your heart. Show them your faith. And she responds to him, Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. How cleverly she does not deny the humanity of other people's children while arguing that our own child deserves a little bit of compassion. And Jesus says, for such a reply, it's brilliant. You may go. Your daughter, the demon has left your daughter. If you read the Gospel of Mark, Jesus fights with everybody. He really does. He fights with demons. He's involved in disputes with them. He's involved in disputes with the religious leaders. No one beats him except this woman. And I think he is delighted that she beats him. Earlier on in the Gospel of Mark, remember we have a woman who comes and touches Jesus' cloak and she is healed, and Jesus calls her forward. And he calls her forward so that he can say to her, daughter. It's a beautiful moment. And I think in this story here, Jesus engages with this woman in such a way so that he can affirm to her her humanity, her right as a person to come with her needs, her right as a person to come before him. I think he affirms her humanity. And what she gets from Jesus here is not the crumbs from off of the table 5 weeks later. She gets the whole meal then and there, because he says, the demon has left your daughter. And we're told she goes home and finds the child lying on the bed and the demon is gone. He doesn't simply exorcise the demon, he exorcises the discrimination that would have prevented her from getting the help. And here's a great thing, another great thing about this story. In the bigger scale, what this story is teaching us in Mark's gospel is that the salvation that Jesus has brought is, in fact, for everybody. This event takes place in Tyre. It's a non-Jewish, more of a Gentile area. It's not the first time that Jesus has been in a Gentile area in Mark's gospel, and it's not also the first time that he carries out a healing. But the way in which these two stories are, the location in the story is combined. It seems to be that the message in Mark's gospel here to the people in the room, to the church in the New Testament, and to the church now is this Messiah, the salvation he offers, the kingdom he is establishing, is open to all people of all nations and of all backgrounds, including cranky, difficult people who bring their faith into the room. And the wonderful thing is, this is why we get to belong. The wonderful thing is that is why you and I have been allowed to bring our stuff to Jesus with our background, our questions, our experiences, and have found in his presence help and healing. And if we recognize that for ourselves, this is why you and I must always be open and willing. Let others come bringing their stuff, regardless of their background, their ethnicity, their history, their cares and their concerns and their worries, because the space is opened up for them. And let the demons go out of the room. A quote to finish from Hirsch and Frost, because I haven't really used any, and I feel encourage people to buy the book. I should. Whatever processes we might use to understand the role of a founder of a movement, his or her followers must somehow strive to embody the life, ideals, and reality of the founder. Likewise, for the Christian movement, the founder must be able to be seen in the lives of the found. This is a process of embodiment which is essential to movements. This is what it means for the church to have Jesus in its midst. This is partly what it means for us to live in Christ and Christ in us. Observers should be able to encounter Jesus in and through the life of the community of his followers. This is a breathtaking story where we see the space and we're invited to walk in it and to invite others to walk in it with us also. Amen.